Hi guys, this is Mrs. Malloy at Mrs. Malloy's house. And I just got home from summer school and I realized that there's not many YouTube read alouds of PSV 11, your summer reading book. So I am going to start reading it aloud. So if any of you are having trouble getting through the book or making yourself sit down, you can log on to YouTube and read with me. So it's called PSB 11 by Rita Williams Garcia. It is the second book in the series. We read the first book, One Crazy Summer this past school year in 4th grade. So we're going to find out what happens to Delphine. Chapter 1, A Grand Negro Spectacle. You'd think that after flying 6 odd hours from New York to Oakland, then flying 6 odd hours back, Vanetta, Fern, and I would be world-class travelers, and those bumps and dips would be nothing. The 727 still shook, rattled, and rolled from cloud to cloud with no sign of letting up, and we were headed into a storm as we approached New York. The captain said that the good old storm was just the thing we needed to cool off the sticky August air waiting to greet us on the ground. The last thing my sisters and I needed was lightning bolts seeking out plain metal. I kept the fact about lightning's love of big metal objects to myself. No need scaring my sisters with what I knew. They were scared enough. We had made the best of our flight. For nearly 6 hours up in the clouds, we couldn't stop talking about meeting our mother, going to the People's Center, and getting to know Sister Macumbo, Sister Pat, and even Crazy Kelvin. We went on and on about Fern and the Black Panthers at the Free Huey rally. We chanted our mother Cecile's poem softly, we thought, until the short brunette stewardess came over and cleared her throat. We got the message and stopped softly accusing the world of kidnapping Mother Africa's children. When we wore out those memories, we went on about the Ankton sisters and their swinging dresses, and about meeting Mean Lady Ming for the first time and being afraid of her. Then we talked about our San Francisco excursion and eating all those dumplings and fortune cookies, and how the police took our mother away in their black and white squad car. But then we'd end up yapping about me riding down that big old hill on Hirohito's go-kart. From there, I'd take my fair share of teasing about Hirohito Woods. Then I'd drift off into puffy clouds, thinking a boy liked me, let me ride his go-kart, and promised to be my pen pal. You'd think we'd save our summer adventures for later, since we'd have to retell them to Pa and Big Ma, and we couldn't stop laughing, remembering, or coming up with plans to get our story straight. We couldn't tell it all. If we did, we'd never be sent west to see our mother again. The captain told us to fasten our seatbelts. We were coming in for a landing. We held hands and leaned to the left to watch New York coming closer. The bay, roads, buildings, houses, and bushes that were really trees. 100 butterflies tickled the insides of my belly as the plane went down, down, down. Vanetta and Fern closed their eyes and covered their ears. We all screamed until we were met with a big bounce against the tarmac, followed by smaller bounces and bumps. Big Ma wouldn't have stood for any screaming coming from her grands, but what Big Ma didn't know wouldn't earn us her shame. Instead, the short brunette stewardess wagged her finger at us. "Oh, that was uncalled for." We were supposed to say, "Yes, ma'am," but we didn't. Instead, Vanetta said, "That landing was scary." "And bumpity-bumpy crashy," Fern added. "It sure enough was," I said. The stewardess, who was also our airport chaperone, shook her head and told us to stay put until everyone was off the plane. She'd escort us to the baggage claim after she and the other stewardess did the final tidying up. We unbuckled our belts and waited while mostly men in suits, college students, and a few women with children made their way down the aisle and to the front of the plane. We were anxious to go, but the stewardess chatted on with the captain instead of doing her tidying up. "We're ready," Vanetta announced to our chaperone. I shushed her, but the stewardess ignored us, and Fern tugged at my arm and said, "Gotta." which was her secret code for I have to make a pee-pee. The way she squirmed, it wasn't much of a secret. Let's go back there, I nodded, towards the tail of the airplane where the bathroom was. I had made her use the airplane toilet while we were halfway through the flight. The flight was too bumpy, and she hadn't forgotten it. Fern shook her head no, she wouldn't go back there again, not even with the plane parked on the ground. We got up and marched down the aisle towards the cockpit. Excuse me, I said loudly. We have to get to the bathroom. Just hold your horses, young lady. You've held on for this long. You can last a little longer. Fern's face was turning colors, and her eyebrows reached up to say, please, please. So I grabbed Fern's hand and said, come on. And we exited the 727 without our chaperone. The three of us went running down the carpeted walkway towards the terminal. We heard her shouting, stop those Negro girls, stop them! Vanetta yelled back, we're black girls. Who cared what kind of color the stewardess called us? I had to get my sister to the bathroom. Fern kept up as best she could while I trotted fast enough to keep my sisters moving forward, but not too fast for Fern. I wish we were back in the days when I could scoop Fern up. We spent one summer with Cecile, and all a sudden, Fern was too big for Miss Pattycake, too big for the nightlight, and too big for me to pick her up. We ran like three fugitives, Vanetta cackling and Fern saying, gotta, gotta. Everyone's eyes latched onto us, but I kept my eyes open for restroom signs. Thankfully, we didn't have far to run. Under the restroom line was a sign of women, teenagers, and kids. The line wound outside, but only Fern hopped from one foot to the other and said, gotta, gotta. And I pulled Fern past the line and inside the bathroom. Vanetta followed. There was a ruckus, starting with a woman and some kids near the front of the line wearing Mickey Mouse ears. A stall swung open and I shoved Fern inside while Vanetta and I stood guard. A woman said, I was next. Then I said, we claim this stall for the people. And Vanetta said, right on. And we thought we looked pretty tough standing there guarding the stall for our sister, like the Black Panthers guarded the courthouse steps for Huey Newton. Then this other woman stood before us scolding, the people, my Fanny. No one has the right to be rude. You should have asked politely. A stall door slammed and another woman came out. Politely? These don't know from polite. She glared at us. We stood our ground like panthers standing up to the line of cops. A lot of good it did Fern. While the women tried to shame us, Vanetta and I stood our ground. The worst had happened. A clear pee-pee stream ran from Fern's stall down the tiles to the next stall. Fern must not have made it into the bowl, and the squatter next to Fern let out a stream of words of her own. Now I was mad at myself for not doing what I should have done, picked Fern up, too big or not, got her to the stall, her shorts down, and sat her on the bowl like I did when she was 3. When Fern came out, I checked her shorts. She at least managed to get them down in time before she sprayed the floor. There were too many eyes and mouths agape, accusing and murmuring. I led Fern to the sink and turned the knob on. Go, Fern. Wash your hands. Fern's chin stayed pressed to her chest. Go ahead, Fern. 2 girls in the black Mickey Mouse ears snickered. Vanetta and I cut our eyes at them. Where is your mother? Their mother asked. She also wore Mickey Mouse ears. Then all the women chimed in, and one said our mother should take a firm hand to us. Our mother is a soldier in the Revolution, Vanetta said. No one knew what to make of that. Then the washroom lady pushed her way between the women, the laughing girls and us. Lord, look at that mess, the woman declared. It was just a little stream, but she was no one to fool with. That didn't stop Vanetta. Lucky thing that you have that mop, miss. I grabbed Fern's wet hand in Vanetta's, and we made way around the angry washroom lady and through the line of waiting tisk-tiskers and pointers. My sisters and I ran, dodging through travelers with luggage and airport workers of all kinds. We followed the signs pointing to the baggage claim area where we expected to find Pa and Big Ma, and somewhere during all that running we began to laugh. Sure enough, I saw Big Ma, although I didn't see Pa. Our grandmother's sea green dress with matching hat and white feather stood out among the black, brown, gray, and navy business suits. She was hard to miss. No one was happier than I was to see Big Ma, who, while I ran with my arms stretched open, didn't seem as tall as she'd always been. But what would we call her besides Big Ma? We were running and giggling, and just before we were in hugging range, my long, flapping arms flapped into a newspaper spread open before a gray suit. The paper flew in 2 directions, and I turned and said, "Sorry," but I kept running towards Big Ma, whose arms weren't outstretched like mine. Her hand covered her mouth, and her eyes widened like she was watching a horror movie in the dark. Then both hands went from her mouth to her hips. "Delphine!" The Del pulled down low and quick, and the fiend had no choice but to follow like a shamed child. The joy of running and screaming got knocked clean out of me. I stopped running while Vanetta and Fern sped past me and clamped onto Big Ma. "Yes, Big Ma?" "Delphine, did you just see what you did?" My 3-second silence went on 3 seconds too long for Big Ma. "Go over there to that white man and apologize for knocking him down. Go on." I told him I was sorry, I said. Her face boiled beneath her hat and wig. "Delphine." Now that fiend spoke her mind. We're out here in public. Public meant being out among the throng of white people. And for all that, I was glad. Their white faces and wide-eyed stares saved me from getting the good side of Big Ma's right hand. All I needed was for the women in the bathroom, led by the Mickey Mouse ear wearers, the washroom lady, and the short brown brunette stewardess, to come out wagging their fingers and telling all. The white man in the gray suit, the one whose newspaper I had sent flying, approached us, and I knew I was in trouble. Big Ma both feared white people and placed them up on a pedestal. The man started out using one of Big Ma's favorite words. "Ma'am," he said, "it was an accident." He was full of smiles, one aimed my way. "Mister," she told the man, who looked older than Uncle Darnell and younger than Pa. "Sir," she started again, "I don't know what gets into children, running in the airport like horses on a racetrack." I doubted the man understood her. Big Ma's children sounded like churn, making butter. And depending on how he heard her, her horses watered lawns or housed people. His expression didn't stop for Big Ma from apologizing on my behalf. She wasn't brought up to be running in public places. No, sir, she surely wasn't. The young man was uncomfortable with Big Ma's pleading and apologizing and said again, "It was an accident, ma'am." He folded his newspaper and took off as fast as he could. If the real Black Panthers, and not that fake crazy Kelvin, had seen Big Ma, they would have called her a traitor to her people. They would have drawn an ugly Aunt Jemima picture of Big Ma with a pig snout and tail and put it in the Black Panther newspaper, the same way they drew cartoons of the police and Richard Nixon, who was running for president. The man's words weren't enough for Big Ma. She went on scolding. "Delphine, what do you mean running through the airport, knocking down a white man, causing a grand Negro spectacle for all the world to see?" And the more Big Ma carried on, the more she got exactly what she didn't want in the first place. There wasn't an eye that could turn away from us. That is chapter 1 of PSB 11. I will be trying to record chapters one at a time, and please keep checking Google Classroom to find links to the different chapters that are available. Okay, I hope you guys are having a great summer, and I will see you before you know it.